So, have you ever sat in a class and just wondered, is history really just about memorizing a bunch of old, dusty dates? Well, today, we're going to tackle that question head on. We're going to explore the real reason why the past actually matters to us, right here, right here.
And let's be honest, it's a fair question. It's probably one you've asked yourself a bunch of times. I mean, why should we spend our time thinking about people and events that are long gone? It can feel so distant. Almost completely disconnected from our lives today.
Okay, so to answer that, let's try something. Let's completely reframe how we look at history. First things first, forget the boring textbooks. I want you to think about it as an adventure.
Yeah, seriously. One of the best ways to think about this is that history isn't just a subject, it's an adventure. It's kind of like having a ticket to travel across time and space, and you don't even have to leave your chair.
And this journey, it's absolutely incredible. It literally transports us to these other worlds where people lived totally different lives. We're talking their food, their clothes, their whole society, what they believed in. Everything was different. History opens a door to understanding people whose lives we can barely even imagine. So, if history is this big adventure, how do we even navigate it? How in the world do we know what these past worlds were actually like? Well, this is where it gets really fun. This is where historians basically become detectives, piecing together all the clues that were left behind. All right, so the first big clue in our detective kit is something called a manuscript. These are just books written a long, long time ago entirely by hand. And that makes sense, right? The name itself comes from the Latin word manu, which means hand. And this isn't just some abstract idea. Look at this. That is a real page from a manuscript made from palm leaves, written about 1,000 years ago. People would literally prepare the leaves, write on them, and then tie them all together to make a book. That's a direct, physical link to a person who lived a whole millennium ago. Wild, right? Okay, clue number 2 that our historical detectives use: inscriptions. Now, unlike those fragile manuscripts that could get destroyed or even eaten by insects, these were built to last. We're talking about writings carved into really hard surfaces like stone or metal. So what kind of stuff were people carving into solid rock? Well, all sorts of vital information. You'd have kings issuing orders that everyone had to see and obey. You'd find records of major events, celebrations of huge victories in battle, and stories about the important deeds of both men and women. Each one of these inscriptions is like a little window into what that society really cared about. Okay, so we've got these clues, manuscripts and inscriptions, and they help us understand these past worlds. But this is where we get to the real heart of it all. This is the big aha moment, where everything connects right back to us, here in the present. Just take a second and think about the world around you. I mean everything. The language you speak, the phone in your hand, the way our government works, all of it. Every single part of our modern world has been fashioned and shaped by the people who came before us. Their inventions, their mistakes, their big decisions, all of it slowly, piece by piece, built the world that we inherited. And that's why history isn't just about the past. In a very, very real way, it is the present. And this gets to the most crucial point. History is basically the instruction manual for the world we live in today. It lets us understand how our super complex modern world didn't just pop up out of nowhere. It, like the quote says, emerged over long centuries of development. Now, to be a good detective of the past, you need to know how to read the evidence. And one of the most basic tools is just understanding the timeline. So, how exactly do historians measure time? It's actually pretty simple. The whole system is centered around one specific point in time. For centuries, people used BC, which stands for before Christ, and AD, which is Latin for in the year of the Lord. But today, in most parts of the world, we use a more inclusive system: BCE, which means before Common Era, and CE for Common Era. The numbers are exactly the same. It's just a different way of naming the eras so we can all share a common reference point. So, we've seen that history is an adventure, it's an investigation, and it's really the story of our own world. But now, let's bring all this back home, to the most important person in this whole equation: you. Because, in the end, this is what it all boils down to. We're left with these really fundamental questions. Do you want to know who you are? And do you want to truly understand the world that you live in? If the answer to either of those questions is yes, well, then you kind of need to know how we got here. You need history.